Hey, everybody. This is the Get Yours podcast. My name is Elisa Amelia Trethrick. I am here with Maria Rebelo, and I am just so happy to see you again. It's our first time seeing one another this year. We met last year. Time is flying, but isn't that how Web3 works? It just like evaporates into thin air. Time and space is an illusion here in Web3. And I'm just so happy to have you here. UREEQA is a really incredibly unique company, very much needed in the space. And I'm really excited to have you talk about what you do there, that business, your history, how you kind of got to where you are, and why you're doing what you're doing at UREEQA. So I will do a little like intro of you, and anything that I have missed, please add in there before we get going. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, of course. Where are you hailing from today?
I'm in Barcelona, in Spain.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. That must be transcendent. Are you going to Paris week?
No, no. This year I decided not to go.
Well, don't worry. I'm not going to NFT NYC this year. I went to a ton of events there and so many panel talks, and that's a big reason why I wanted to have this podcast in the first place. Is because I've been to so many NFT events where the panel talks are so high level, and we're going and we're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars to be seated in front of so many community leaders, and it's really high level information, not the how you got here and not the how they became who they were. It's mostly just like topic based, and I really want people in the community in Web3 and Web2 to know who these leaders are, at their core. And I think that that's what a lot of Web3 is. It's about storytelling. It's about connecting and having that emotional connection that we've lost through becoming analytics. Like we really want to know the companies that we're working with. And I feel like that emotional connection with the people that are on those teams and have these diverse backgrounds is really intuitive to creating sorry intuitive to creating these long lasting relationships. And I feel like that's what, marketing should have been all about in the beginning. It's about storytelling and creating that connection with consumers so they believe in you. So, don't feel bad for not going. I'm not going to a lot of places this year, and the bear market's crazy, as you know. So everybody's holding on to what they have and trying to make the best of building right now in the space, which is amazing. And I'm excited to learn more about you. So before we get to the questions, I just wanted to share a little bit about you, and please fill in anything that I've missed. Maria Rebelo is the head of business and development at UREEQA. UREEQA is a blockchain-based platform for the protection and management of creative work. She has extensive experience in the creative industry, which is amazing. Without creatives, we wouldn't have collectors. Without creatives, we wouldn't have ads and the beauty that we see in the world. And that's, I feel like creators and creatives make up so much of the genuine essence of what the world is. So you're originally from Portugal, you have a background in business and marketing and advertising. That's all creative, like from the bottom to the top. You moved to Spain to pursue your education and eventually worked with NFTs in 2020. You gave support to creators and brands entering the Web3 space through strategy and education. And today, you're the head of business development at UREEQA. So the company is aiming to provide a decentralized platform that really allows artists, musicians, writers, and other creatives to register, protect, and manage their intellectual property rights using blockchain technology. This is one of the biggest talks in the space. So I'm really glad you're here talking with us today. Overall, you are a prominent figure in technology, in the blockchain, and the creative industries across the world. And you're really recognized for your innovative work in this blockchain based property protection, which is really impressive to me and so desperately needed. So I'm really happy to be sitting here with you. I love speaking with you. A few months ago, we had a really great conversation, and I really believe the concept of UREEQA is an incredible step towards a more safe and equitable future for so many. So before we get started, let me know if I missed anything in that, and please share it with the community.
You said everything that was needed to say before we start. And so, yes, I work for Eureka. You can also take a look at our Twitter page or our Discord channel in order to understand a little bit better of what we do.
Sounds wonderful. Yes, please. I love your website. I love all the information you provide. And wow, the demo that you had shared me is amazing. I suggest anybody sign up to have a demo and talk to you guys about, especially if you're a creative or a business worrying about intellectual property and creative, just like in general, artist, musician, somebody that's looking to come into this space and really have something like steadfast and sturdy to protect your copyright information, your IP. It's very important. So amazing. Well, let's just dive right in. I'm going to be starting these podcasts right at the beginning, right in childhood. So, that it's a great definer of who we are today. Not a complete definition, but it really helps us to see how we got here. And I love to, my wife is like, remember the child in you and be kind. And I'm like, I think back at the times that I was a child and wow, I'm a lot of the person I am today because of who I was and the things that I went through. So, can you tell us about your childhood and upbringing and how, it influenced you and your approach to business throughout your career?
Yes, and it's true. Childhood is definitely a driven force for who we are today. So, from my end, I had a very tough but also a very great childhood. I had a lot of adversities, and this made me grow and learn how to position my goals and my visions for life. I spent a lot of time alone dwelling with my own adversities. But on the other side, I had a spectacular, actually, two spectacular teachers, which were my granddad and my dad, who are self-made men, knowledge and business driven, culture driven as well, and they really helped me understand from a young age how the world worked and mainly how to adapt to changes because I grew up in a almost non-technological to a fully technological era.
So many of us that are coming from that millennial and before generation really saw like this explosion of technology, things that just didn't exist. And now it's ruled by computers in our hands. I never dreamed of the day that that was going to happen. And, thank you for sharing that. Were there any particular experiences that you faced or challenges as a child that, you feel like helped you get to where you are now? Are there like any defining moments where you're like, I feel like I want to do this, or you had a challenge in school or in a personal relationship or something that really drove you to be where you are in the world?
My dad took me to his business from a young age. And by the age of 13, I was already managing real estate, sales, and even overlooking contracts with him. So an experience that I can share because I always loved walking. I hike every week in nature. I always enjoy walking instead of taking the transports. So before I would go to any visits
Yeah.
or to do any open houses, I would get out of my house around 1 hour earlier, walk no matter the distance to the house that I was showing, and always get there before time in order to clean the house and do it as perfect as possible. And at that time, I would just imagine myself living in these houses and apartments and figure out the best benefits, why I would like living there. So I explored a lot of
Nice.
storytelling about other people's lives. If I had a family or if I was a student, how would I fit into
Yeah.
that apartment in order to find the best way to make people feel comfortable and feel safe about renting a new place, which is always a big change. And I think that drove me to a more
Yeah.
business model.
I think that that's so interesting. Wow, that must have been so incredibly creative. I think that that is amazing. I was in real estate for a long time, and I'd always imagined like I'm not very good at figuring out like how things would look or how to do things in a home. I leave that up to my wife. But figure. I think that that's so cool and really interesting. That really created and I feel like brought you into having success or possibly leading to that success, and being in a world of storytellers. Like, you're literally helping people tell their stories, and who best from than from somebody that has been doing that and creating these narratives, and thinking about these things for such a long time. So I think that that's really a cool story. Were there any interests and passions as a child? Have any transpired into your work as an adult today? Any like hobbies, or just things that you're really passionate about?
Yes, yes. So as a child, I would love to write. I was always a big writer and I would love to read books. So, all this writing, although today I write more emails than anything else, it's still a big part of it. And also, on the other side, I was always very geek and techie. I spent a lot of time in the computer and I loved playing video games. Besides playing chess with my granddad, which was a big part, I spent a lot of time in video games. And I think one of the reasons why blockchain is so interesting for me is also the capability of this technology that goes into gaming. And also, when a child gets into gaming, this really allows to have an adaptable mindset and foresee outcomes before the play, because you need to, it's important. And this is a brain muscle
Yeah,
that now I see a lot of
yeah.
kids have. Before, all the parents were super worried, my kid only plays video games. But then when you see in the business world, these grown up gamers, they're actually doing very well.
Yeah. I think that's, I think, as a I always say, like, man, if my parents only supported me being an artist, where I'd be now, or like, look at all the parents that would have supported their kids gaming, and like developing games, and being in this atmosphere that now is one of the biggest industries in the world. Like, it is incredible, and so many people in our generations are like, "Damn, if I only stuck with that and really like followed what I believed, like, I could be making incredible money doing something that I loved, instead of possibly being an accountant." Not that that's not bad, but us being put into boxes. Like, I was pushed into medical, and I ended up doing graphic design and 3D animation because I did medical for a while, and I was like, it's not me. Um, and I that's how I got into the space where I am now. So I'm glad I did that a little bit. I wish that I kept up with more 3D modeling, because now it's like it's taking off more than it ever did even 10 years ago. It is just, look at the metaverse and all of these AR experiences, and it is the way of the world, which is amazing. Can you tell me what your favorite games were?
Yes, anything that is similar to civilization, so Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, SimCity, all these games where you have to plan out from the outside. And today I still play Hearthstone almost on a daily basis. It's kind of my lunchtime game. These things, when you look from the outside and you imagine the plays, so chess as well, I was very, very much into that.
So, do you play any metaverse games right now, or enter metaverses? Do you have any favorite like AR or VR experiences that you feel like is fun, that you want to share and tell people about here?
I have not found my game in the blockchain world yet. I've played many games, but I think
Sure,
tokenization with cryptocurrency really changes the environment for a gamer. The NFT side is still very interesting,
sure.
but the cryptocurrency side, it's not for everyone. And when you just want to play a game, you're not
Yeah.
that much thinking about making money. Making money is just a very good benefit of it. Um,
Mhm.
so I found a lot of amazing VR games, but they're still on Steam or Epic Games. They're not blockchain based.
Yeah, I've been in some. I feel like almost every experience that I go in the metaverse, even spatial. I love spatial, but sometimes I have like problems with the pad, or there's always a little something like hiccup here and there, and there's I love the way that things are going, but I also haven't found my space. I think that there's only one VR game that I it's not even a game, it's just an app. It's called Trip. It's for meditation. And it really helped me like feel the universe, which was really interesting. And I'm an old Crash Bandicoot gal. I was on the PS here and there, the old one. And I miss old Nintendo and the duck shooter and those old games. They were really nostalgic and fun. And I've played a little bit of Sims, and I really like that. So I think that that's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. Do you feel like anything in your education and early career experiences like really contributed to the success and positive impact you're working on making in the world today?
Absolutely. I think all experiences are very relevant to shape our future, but it's not just about the experiences, it's really about what we take from them. And for me, it was very important to
Yeah.
learn how to detach myself from my experience, even during my education period. And mainly when I say to detach, was to detach myself from the feelings of success and failure, because they always come. You either have success or you have failure, uh, or you give up, which is a failure by itself.
Mhm.
So if you get too overwhelmed with success, or if you get too overwhelmed with failure, we tend to feed ourselves with these egotistic views of I'm really good at it or I keep failing. And these are not really relevant motors for growth. So I think one of the best educations I had was detachment, to learn how to detach yourself from the problems and adversities,
Nice.
but also on the other side from the successes and the extreme happiness that a lot of people just addictively try to seek.
Yeah. Do you feel, speaking of detachment, do you feel like, so many of us define our worth, and I feel like that's kind of been indoctrinated through just generations, finding your worth in the projects that you have, whether they succeed or fail. And a lot of these things are dependent on other people. It's dependent on markets. It's dependent on the, CEOs or lower, maybe lower parts of the team that you just need to possibly replace because it's not a reflection of, what you're looking to bring to the table. And it's all of these things put together, but we really find our like define sometimes our self-worth in that. Do you feel like that detachment has and feeling of practicing that detachment has helped you detach from feeling like your entire self-worth based like in work?
Absolutely. And not only my self worth, but also from the team and the people that work around me. Not everyone is fit for the label, the professional label that we give them. In the same way, I may not always be fit as a business
Sure.
developer, and I'm very resilient to do other things as well. So you sometimes we have to really enjoy the process of respecting what's going on here. And that, as a head of a department, means to not overwhelm people and make them feel like failures or huge successes, but
Yeah.
just to respect that either they are very fit for this or they're not. And the same for me. Either I'm very fit for this specific task, it's not even the
Mhm.
role itself, or I am not, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And this communication is very important, mainly because we are in a remote world. We can work with so many different
Yeah.
people all the time. We have so many AI tools to help us as well today. So if we're not that good at one task, that shouldn't define our whole business developer label or marketing manager or product manager. It's okay to not fully understand. What's not okay is to not and more and to learn more about all these matters.
Love that, and I think that that's one of the main messages that I kind of want to put out in the world by utilizing this podcast as well. Is it's okay to evolve and be fit or not fit for some things. Like we're ever evolving beings, and it being okay to not define ourselves for eternity by a single label, and allowing ourselves to ebb and flow in life and in our professions, I think is really important, because there's so many different factors that come into every project, and you may be like the leader of this specific project, but there's so many other things involved. Like we said, the team, efficacy of work. It's harder with remote because you can't not necessarily look over somebody's shoulder, but know what somebody is doing maybe all the time, and that can reflect on you. And then you feel like this entire thing reflects on you. So being able to like understand and let go and lead also like your team with kindness. That's how I am with my teams, really like making sure they feel like empowered and kind, like they want to be here. I think that is so important. And we'll get into that a little further down in the interview. But before, because I'm going to get carried away, before we go into more of your professional career, can you tell me what advice you'd give young you today based on your experiences growing up and building your successful career? If you could say, little Maria, what would you say to make her feel like everything's going to be okay and just enjoy these happy moments and be you?
So it's a tough question, but I think a big advice here for a young me or a young whoever it is to keep joyfulness. Keep joyfulness in your life. Life is not black and white, so it's not about always being happy or being depressed. And it's also not about the stress and pressure, which, as many people say, it takes it to make a diamond. And I worked for a long time by this stress and pressure and the great outcomes that came from it. Um, and it will always happen at a certain level. Sometimes we want to be joyful, sometimes we want to be happy, but this state, this serotonin state, which is the joyfulness, is something that we acquire from the success and the capacity of being alive in the present, of noticing the small things that you did well or that other people did well, the personality traits that you can enjoy. And for me, waking up every day is already a very big step into success and into personal growth and detachment, as I said before. So, mainly to a young woman, I would say, this presence of being just joyful and being detached can be a big relief from the norms of society. Because for us as women, we're still breaking free from a lot of constitutional
Yeah.
regulations that are not even written, they're just still being taught. So when we don't attach ourselves too much into professional labels, into our gender labels, into how society will look at us, and they do look different for to many people depending on gender and race and culture. So I tend to agree with those that say that success comes from being resilient to the odds and instead of labeling them. And as you said, and that's one of the reasons why I think that I really said yes to coming to this podcast so quickly, is that we're not trying to just fight against the system or just analyze how things should be done and why this business matters. We're humans and we work with machines as well. So we have a great duo already here. Now we need to tell the story as it is.
Younger Maria would love to hear that and feel more secure. I know that I would, knowing that, you know, w- and I love working with women as much as possible, just building one another up. I don't really, you know, um, in all honesty, because that's what this podcast is here for. In so many spaces, um, many women say that we need men. Men don't say that about women in the space, which I think is funny. Like I come from an exec position where I was kind of like tokenized as a female. Um, to reach out to other women and or reach out to creatives because I'm an artist, and put belief in it with a all male rest of the team, which was kind of funny. But I love working with more women because we really, we make up such small parts of so many industries, and us working together, I feel like, has just been the most, especially in Web3, empowering, like taking back what's been ours the entire time, but we felt like we had to give it up in some way, which is really interesting. And we do fight it non we're fighting for our rights nonstop. Like it is insane the rights that we're fighting for right now for our own bodily autonomy, and we never know where it could go. And I think that there's so many creators out there, especially women, that want to see other women in leadership, helping them get to that next place and helping protect them, because we can protect one another. And I love what you're doing at Eureka. And now we'll get more into that, because it's really very, very needed. Most of the questions and spaces that I've been a part of and been in and been co-hosting and hosting have been about IP protection and encryption and verification, and how this should have been the thought at the beginning of the entire space, needing to make sure that we have these things in place to protect us all as we grow in this community. So there have been a lot of scams, there have been a lot of just bad things that happen to people, and especially creatives. We are historically taken advantage of. Our work is historically, pushed down as not worthy or valuable, and us always having to prove ourselves, which is really very weird. And most of this industry is seen from the outside as being creatively driven, which is really interesting. And then the whole royalties and all that stuff. But ensuring, especially for musicians, taking back that have really been historically like bombarded with terrible contracts and just stealing from agencies, and really taking back what is theirs and having their own, protections and IP, and really owning, like you're helping us really own what we're doing and proving it in a lot of different ways. So we'll start getting into you in the now, and a bit of Eureka as well, of course. So I'd love to start off with what inspired you in the first place to pursue a career in Web3? Like how did you get here?
That's a great question. I got here in I didn't even knew that I was getting here, to be fairly honest. Back in 2020, so in the beginning of the pandemic, I started a project, an online virtual gallery to showcase art and to sell originals and print on demand. This was to solve a problem, which was we were all quarantined and artists didn't have, first of all, a lot of inspiration went down for artists because they were stuck at home.
Yeah.
And sometimes our houses are not the best place, and I think a lot of people learned that during the quarantine. And on the other hand, artists used to have either galleries or even the streets to sell their art, festivals, all of that. And they all of a sudden didn't have those chances. So I started this virtual gallery in order to do that. And my motto was always to protect the art. It was not about the collector, not about the creator. It was really about the art. The art is what is the bridge between who understands the art and who created the art, and all society, all the
Mhm.
world around it. And in late 2020, I came across the term of NFTs, and I thought, wow, this is the answer to protecting art, protecting the ownership on digital art. And I was very worried about photography because photography is so easy to just copy paste and put everywhere. And you either put watermark on
Oh
one
yeah.
corner, or you have to put
Yeah.
watermark all over the place, and then kind of ruins your artwork. And I took some photographs as well in the
Yeah.
past, and I did some art myself. All my art was always in a hard drive. I never posted anything online because I was so afraid. It was so easy to copy paste. And so I completely dove
Yeah.
into Web3. And
Yeah.
I was so amazed by the possibilities of the technology that I found myself actually studying Solidity language and studying blockchain technologies just to learn more.
Wow. That's awesome.
But it was not until I found Eureka, or Eureka found me, that I understood the real concept of NFTs. I knew from a coder's perspective what NFTs meant, and I knew from a market's perspective. But the truth is, ownership through an anonymous wallet is not ownership at all. And then you also don't have your authorship or originality protected. And Eureka came and they kind of solved it, but also raised the question to me, are NFTs really valid? And they're not by themselves. And so I think that was the point, the turning point from my ambition to advocate more for NFTs and what brought me here today.
Can you tell me more about the validity that you were just talking about with NFTs, that they don't really make the piece valid? So I know that, those that are, I don't want to say ignorant, I think they're just like just unknowing of what an NFT truly is. They think it is just a image that you can steal or copy paste, or like, haha, I copied it, like I screenshotted it, and now I have a board ape, when it's really the underlying smart contract, the ownership, the access, the token gating, the ability to enter events and different portals. And experiences, and be part of communities as well, like having voting rights and things like that. What do you feel like, what you were just talking about, so the community that are listening to this can understand what you just meant by that with NFTs, how just the NFT doesn't create that validity?
When we mint an NFT through our wallet, the NFT is our property. Of course, it was minted by us, we're the owners. But on a case where this was infringed, so I minted an artwork, someone copied, someone sold it, and I saw this many times. Artists that minted on OpenSea and then found their art on a platform like Super Rare, which is a big platform, or other even more well curated marketplace, because marketplaces also don't have regulations. So now what will happen? Either I go to the marketplace and I ask them to take it down, and either they don't ask me questions, or they'll raise a lot of questions about how can you prove that this is your art. And I didn't have any work process documents. So what will happen after that? I will have to go into a legal advising. That means a lawyer that will charge me per hour. Without copyright registration, he will charge me to get all the paperwork that I need to have copyright registration. And not knowing who
Hmm.
was the person that minted my NFT on another marketplace, I'm even dealing with a bigger
Yeah.
problem, which is what jurisdiction am I applying to? Who against who am I
Yeah.
fighting this battle? All of that will be
Yeah.
years, or at least 1 year of legal problems, a lot of legal fees. And I think a lot of artists, and I understand why, it's not easy to be a creator, but they don't look at this problem. When at Eureka, just to give a quick example, and then we can move on with the questions, we had a problem like this where we had an NFT collection that was validated by us. It was supposed to be minted on OpenSea, and this happens. I think this is, scammers are just like bots. They come overnight, and someone made a collection with all the NFTs
Yep.
that were available on Twitter. So they were not even the NFTs, they were just some low quality images, but they posted them and they minted them as a collection on
Hmm.
OpenSea. And within two
Yeah.
hours, OpenSea took them down because we had all the paper that proved that this
Hmm.
collection belonged to our clients. There was no way to question it. So
Nice.
OpenSea had to take it down immediately. And what these creators paid to Eureka to make this validation was worthwhile.
The that's one of the largest issues I have with NFT marketplaces is instant verification and demanding seller verification. Like, it is so desperately needed, because know your business, basically. It's a know that the transparency was purposeful to put out, we can be anybody at any time, and we don't want to be regulated and things like that, but that is a perfect environment for scams. And having to be having not having the ability, especially on OpenSea, to be a verified seller, unless you, I think it's still this way, selling 100 ETH worth of work until you can become verified, is just like, the most bananas thing I've ever heard of. It should be like Binance. You to create an account, you have to have your ID and like a picture of your face and your ID and these things, and then go through AI and verify that it's you and all these things. Um, because we need some uh validity in who we're buying from, because that puts itself like a bad taste. I've been scammed. Like I feel like that's one of the first things that sometimes happens in Web3. And it happens to almost, like almost everybody. Either it's a rug pull or a scam or a bad link. And that's what I teach in the marketing class that I teach at the University of Curacao. That's what I'm actually teaching today, is about scams across Twitter, across Discord, emails, fake links, allow lists, like all of these things that they can be stealing from actual creators out there who, like your creator you were working for, or working with. They have this collection and they've been, sharing it with their community, getting people ready, and then, they can upload a name with, a capital I instead of an L, or, having the banners, having everything look the exact same as your clients. And this is why Eureka is needed in those kinds of services, to be able to prove immediately with like a ton of proof that these are the valid, pieces of ownership of the client, because there's been such a lack of that in the community, and so many people are just on their own and scrambling and in a trying to find out, okay, how do I prove this? And I loved what you provide at Eureka, being able to, okay, if I'm using a vector or an icon from Flaticon or a Vecteezy, anything from Shutterstock, like I have the licenses, I have the ownership, I have what I paid for, my receipts and all that stuff, so they can really prove, and everybody can prove, that they have the right to create this piece and they're not buying a fraudulent piece, in general, which I think is amazing. And I was really impressed by that. I didn't even think about that until you showed me, in the demo that we had. And I thought that was amazing. So I'm really happy that you were able to provide that for that client. I think that that's amazing, and really shows, like, it's that proof of concept of why you need a service like Eureka, in the first place. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced leaving, Web 2, coming into Web 3? Was there any kind of like learning curve? Was there anything you had to overcome to like get more on board into Web 3 from the other positions that you've had?
The main challenges were all the challenges. Everything was a challenge. It was such a new concept and an industry that was just a baby. Um, I think some of the main challenges and how you should do things, and all of a sudden we're all working remotely with in such weird companies and weird projects. It's not that they're weird, they're amazing, but they're just different. They work differently. They're not going to give you um,
Yeah.
your gym card that they will give to all the other people in the office, and you won't have this 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock lunchtime with all your colleagues. You will have as you want as long as you work well. And of course, you work the same hours, but sometimes you even work more, to be fair, because it's such a gigantic industry. But I think the main challenges were to overcome what was rooted in my mentality of a corporate behavior into this different style of work.
I think it definitely, it's very similar to Web 2, but also very different. I feel like it's a much more personable, and personalized experiences, and that relationship that really is building and having that story, and believing in one another, that you're a good representative to these communities that you're building. Because in Web 3, it's all about transparency. It's all about that story. It's all about being truthful and valid, especially the more and more like crappy things that have happened. But and I feel like, a lot of the whatever, the banks and crypto and bear market and things just like changing, and some NFT scams, like, people are like, look at all these scams, but really in Web 2, I have attempted scams more and more than any from buying a house. I have almost like 15 people a week trying to send me, you have to do this with your home warranty. I have fake Bank of America calling me. I've been with them for 20 years. I have nonstop emails that are scams, and no, grandma, don't click that. Um, there are so many scams in Web 2, and I think that it's the more that there's builders like Eureka and like you and like other partnerships that you're making, and people coming out and building these things that are helping to create that encryption and protection and IP awareness, that this will be a much more secure market than Web 2 in general, and demanding that validity, demanding that people upload their passport or ID, and being able to catch these bad actors, because that's one of the hardest things. I had a founder that I work with, and he was sadly scammed out of $42,000 last week because he was working with an investor, and they said send X to this wallet. And the moment that he did, it was gone and they disappeared. And he'd been working with them for this investment for like 2 or 3 months, and it is just bananas. It's like they contacted the FBI and all this stuff, but it's like, where is this random wallet? Like, who is the owner? I don't have to sign up with MetaMask with, I think, maybe my email, but I can have a randomized email based on another IP address and it's gone. Like, people need to be uploading, having that like face camera. And sadly, that's just how it is for internal, um, you know, uh, uh, awareness to know how to protect consumers and creators. And that is like, it's for both sides, because there's so many people that are scammed. And that's what happens in IP, and why you guys are around because of that. People are constantly like in fear because these protections aren't built in place. And I'm so happy that you are building these protections, because that is the need for creators out there. So that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that with me. So, how do you stay motivated and focused with obstacles and setbacks? It can be like the bear market. Like, how are you staying focused and overcoming things? Is it, positivity? Of course. What is it that really is Maria to help you overcome
I'm
things?
very passionate. I think, as I said before, detachment is a really important step. So, to detach my personal life from my professional life, even though they work side by side, it's still quite important. But to be passionate, and I feel like there's a lot of social and worldwide responsibility. So, I don't work for my personal responsibility because I have to be good and I need to keep a job and to have a career, but actually because, first of all, I truly believe in what we're doing. And it's not even a belief, because I don't really like beliefs to call things belief systems, but I agree that there's a logic in decentralized IP validation and protection. So if we're going towards a decentralized world, then decentralized solutions that protect creators and protect collectors, so protect all the players around work. So it's mainly due to this social and worldwide responsibility. I look ahead and I think, will this work? Yes, it will. And not only it will, it should. So this is how I keep myself, let's say, positive.
It takes belief. You have to believe in what you're doing and see that light of what to come and what this can be. And I think that you're in a really amazing place for that. And there's so much possibility. And I think that Eureka is really filling a lot of gaps that are needed. I haven't personally seen a company so devoted to this at the level that you are. I was just astounded by everything that you guys bring to the table, guys, gals, everybody in between, bring to the table. And as this lead in development and partnerships and business, like, how do you build your network? Like, let's get a little bit into the nitty gritty. How do you practice building strong connections that really last, and there are important facets of your growth?
Transparency. To be fair, it's transparency. Being okay with who I am, or feeling okay with who I am, with what I do, and with the purpose of my company, allows me to be transparent with other people. I have a good professional language because I was always very colloquial even when I was a kid. So I enjoy talking, speaking well, or as well as possible, even though English is not my native language. And that does allow me to network with all sorts of people. And then being transparent means that you can actually have deep connections. Like every time we spoke, I had a good connection with you. It's good because we were both transparent. We knew what we were here to do. We don't have to hide or to pretend. We're not working for companies that we know
Yeah.
are doing bad to the world, so we have to hide our own shame of it, as I see a lot of people, mainly in traditional markets, that had to do that in the past. And then I also grow a lot my network because I'm interested. I go to a lot of events. I try to talk with the people that I find are doing interesting projects. When I read the news and I see this project is doing something that I find interesting, I go and I connect on LinkedIn. If needed, I even have a meeting just to understand more about the project, even if they cannot or are not suited to be Eureka's clients or partners. It's still good for me to always want to network and to learn more about what's going on. That's my secret sauce.
I think I love it. Transparency and true connection. You got to be about that and like honestly about it. You can't be just like, okay, like what can you offer me? Okay, like you have to have this. Like I don't want to work like with people like that. I want to work with somebody that enjoys me and what I have to bring to the table and believes in the genuineness that I'm putting out there and vice versa. Like you want to work with people that believe in what they're doing, and aren't working for a place that they feel like, ashamed of, or they just don't care about. It's you're bringing the community, vice versa, communities together when you're working, especially in Web3, with each other's brand. So I love that answer. I think that that's so aligned with the mission of Web3, and why you're like a perfect fit, and you made me feel like really seen and heard, and you're so kind, you and the other partner that was on there, and I just love the experience. It's one of the most memorable, and I've had like probably 1,000 in the last month meetings with a variety of people from all over in different professions in the last 2 years, and it was just really like genuine, like wholeheartedly genuine. You have the passion to help protect creators, and you actually care, and that's what's meaningful, and that's who people want to work with, and be taken care of in that way. So I love that. That's wonderful. As somebody in your position, what marketing strategies, as somebody that's like leading this business venture, have you found most effective in Web3? How do you measure the success of building business development?
So here are two sides, the marketing and the business development. When it comes to marketing, um, as Web3 is very community driven, it's less about all the money that you put into marketing. And one of the things that I remember so well when I started working in Web3 was nobody wanted Facebook ads, and Google ads were, why, what are you doing with ads? So we completely shifted,
Yeah.
and it's true, presence, transparency are crucial for people to follow your brand, your project, and to want to keep updated with what you're doing. It's a lot more work than Facebook ads and Google ads, I have to say. So in terms of marketing, I think we do an excellent job. It's not my department, but we do an excellent job with keeping the community up to date and keeping our branding up to date as well, and with education. And I think a lot in marketing, we try to say that education and marketing are very different, but they are the same thing. Education is part of marketing. Marketing is part of educational, actually, and they coexist very well. When it comes to business development, it's about targeting what would be your ideal partners, and also to not be afraid to keep relationships. And when you work online, a lot of times people are so busy, they don't answer. And even if you send three messages in 1 week, maybe they will only answer 1 month after. you have to be okay with that. You have to always be okay that relationships online don't grow as quickly as knocking on the door. And they also don't disrupt like that. So I try to keep relationships with not only the partners and clients we have, the ones we had as well, but also the ones that may come. And they may not be ready for that right now. But we will keep being colleagues, being friends in the space until the right time comes.
I I think that that is something that's really great to share, especially for people in marketing and just business development coming into Web3, interested in Web3, that it is so drastically different from Web2. Anytime that I see a ad on Facebook or Twitter, it is just a what is the word? It is an it's inundated with scam, or this isn't web3 because you're targeting people. Like people are moving away, like they in web 2 it's analytics based. That's where people were stealing your information, stealing what you're doing and your actions and who you are and interacting with, and then targeting you with ads. And that's a very web 2 mindset. And in web 3, anytime that somebody in web 3 sees that, they all they see is web 2. Like if they truly understand what web 3 is about, and that's why marketing has had to move away from this analytic based to personality and emotion and genuine interaction based, and having that time to actually connect with that person. Like if you're looking to reach out to somebody and make a partnership, follow them on LinkedIn, comment on some of their posts, like look, interact with what they're doing and saying, act like you're an actual person, not just trying to make a buck off them, because that's how we've been treated for the last 20 years, like worse and worse and worse and worse. You can't think or speak or type anything without getting bombarded with ads and wondering who knows what else about you, and being able to have that power to share what you want with who you want is what web 3 is all about. So somebody in your position, like building up these relationships and partnerships, being gentle, not being forceful, not hitting them week after week after week, going a few weeks and, hey, how are you doing? Like I love the interactions that we've had. The company that I was with just wasn't ready to make understand the value, and they were trying to build something on their own that was just very broken, and they're not creators themselves and haven't really been involved highly at the level, especially that you have with creatives, because many people, especially in this space, we're a lot of like introvert extroverts or just introverts in general, and sometimes connections can be hard, and being gentle with things and not being bombarded with constant like emails. You know how it is on LinkedIn. It is just nonstop, like congratulations, here's our business and get a loan and all of these things, and it's not genuine. But when I see somebody like sharing, I love your LinkedIn because you're sharing really useful information nonstop. And I think I've shared some of the things that you've shared on there, because you write genuine pieces, you're involved in the community, you understand what's going on, you're caring about providing good content that is conscious and correct. And you're really helping to educate, because that's what it's all about, education, and slowly bringing in these clients to see where they can fit in this space and why they need your product. And I love the way that you go about it. And it makes me feel very like, like we're friends, and I think that that's what people want to feel. They want to work with people that they feel comfortable with, and it's not always like sell, 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 but like how can we help you be the best that you can be. And these are the reasons, why we see that the product would work best for you. So, I know that Web 3 is intense. We all are all doing too many things at once, and it's a funny space to be in. So how do you balance work life and personal life? Do you? What strategies have you found are most effective? Do you meditate? Do you separate yourself from work? Do you turn your phone off on the weekend? Like, what are your tactics to feel like you actually have your own life outside of Web
It
three?
requires a lot of envisioning the outcomes. So, First of all, it's true. It's a non-stop work, and when it's needed, you will stay until 1, 2 in the morning because you need to have that meeting with someone who is in another part of the world, but you have to. Doesn't matter if you started working at 9 in the morning, you will do it. And sometimes on the weekend, you know that you have some tasks, but if they're really needed, then you cannot avoid doing them. So, what I try to do, I do try to keep my weekends off. And unless there's real work to do, I I do answer. If I'm online, I do answer. But a lot of times I go to nature, so it's not like I turn off my phone, but I'm just not looking at it. I meditate. It's true, I meditate every day. And not only that, I give weekly guided meditations to my team. So it's open to my whole company, and anyone who wants to join comes and joins because I think it's an important
Wow.
way to take some steps out. Remember that you are still just a body and then you are human, but first you're just a body, and bodies are quite weak. So you have to go back to breathing, and then to, I found that meditation really helped me uh, get my life objectives done, and also be more flexible towards these changes. And when I see them around my team and with the companies or other people, it truly helps teams getting stronger together when they're able to take some time out just to relax, just to think about themselves, and then realize, oh, wait, I'm in this call with everyone in my team. And you feel this proximity, even though it's all digital, you still feel it. And I think it's important. It helps embrace the differences that sometimes we have to juggle when we're working in teams.
That is brilliant. Anybody listening, that is an incredible thing. It's a great team building exercise. How long do you usually do it for? Is it like 15,
It's
20
about
minutes?
20 to 30 minutes.
That's wonderful. Just enough time to relax and ease out and come to center. Meditation is really important. Sound healing is really important. I'm about to do a bunch of like sound healing stuff here in my own hometown, and I want to start doing it in Twitter Spaces and just like provide some relaxation. It's so important to come back to self. There's so much going on, and allow yourself to zone in and zone out. And I think that having that part of a team like building exercise is wonderful and a great way to keep people uh, interactive and happy and connected with one another and feel like they're experiencing these same things. So that is brilliant. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you seem like somebody that definitely does meditation and takes their, their soul seriously, and I love that. But I wasn't expecting you to be doing that for everybody else, and I think that that is just wonderful. Speaking of like centering, we have all dealt with failure or rejection in some way in life, in our careers. What have you learned from any experiences? Have you ever had those experiences of just like, damn, like that didn't work, or not getting a job or rejection in any way, and how have you dealt with it? How has it made you, more secure in who you are?
It depends on the situation. First of all, it's important for me and for anyone to be able to see, why did this happen? Was the company fit for me? Because sometimes when I worked in the past, I didn't had I didn't had a really bad professional experience, but I had some failures, and sometimes I can pinpoint that the company was not fit for me. Maybe they were too rigid. Maybe they didn't understand my point of view. Um, and I always try to understand the other person's side. So when failure comes, you get sad, and it's very okay to be sad. And I think it's important for people to take some time off. And mainly, for example, you get fired, or you have to go out of that work because it was too stressful, it was consuming your soul, or you were doing things that were unethical, as I saw some people in my circle happen to them. Um, the first advice that I give, and so I hope I gave this to myself in the past, was take some time off. Don't jump from one job to another. Failure happens, and even if it happens in your company and you don't get fired, just take some time off. Take some time to deal with it. Don't think about what other people are thinking of you. Just respect yourself. And that's it. There's no real secret. Sometimes we fail and we go very much down. It's our brain chemistry. It's very okay. What's not okay is if we take too much time with it. We have to feel it how sensitive we are. If we're too sensitive, we're going to feel it like hell, but we need to feel it and then we need to stop and then we need to move on. That's what I try to do.
That's so true. It's so true. Harping on things that sometimes are outside of your control or mistakes that you made, like it stops the constant harping. And I used to be really bad at this, and it like defined me, and I would just I would feel so bad for a long time about a singular thing, and now I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna do this other thing and feel better, or I'm going to say, okay, well, that happened. Let's just move on. Staying in that same place stops you from being the better you sooner. And understanding, like being able to understand, okay, this is why this happened. This is what I'm going to do differently this time. And just looking to try to be better through those situations is really important, because we look back at years of my life where I made myself feel bad for no reason about things, and I could have moved on and had more happiness. And I wish I didn't do that. And you don't want to get into your later years and think of all these times that you could have just like switched the script and understood and moved on, because things in life just happen. Some things in your control and some things out of your control, and being able to see and learn and then practice other ways of being are really, really important. Are there any strengths or skills that you have that you feel like have really aided in your success over time?
I think I said already a lot of my strengths and my skills. So the detachment is really the most crucial one, I have to say. It's the most important thing. And then, and when it comes to, and if anyone who is listening to this wants to be, is a business developer or even a marketeer, I think that it's very important to be able to position ourselves in the brand and the company and what it represents. So, because I was taught from a young age to be part of the company, so I worked in companies that belonged to my family, belonged to my dad actually. So they were mine per se. Uh, I found out that the mindset of positioning yourself not as if you are the CEO, but as if you are also a founder of this vision, a path towards the objectives, and to think about it not only as a brand, but also as the consumer, the interested person that could come and look and say, wow, I really like working with you, or I really like to be your client. So putting yourself in all these different positions is a great strength when it comes to business.
Yeah, you have to, really believe. I treat when I work at companies that the company is mine, even though it's not. Like I want to put in that passion that I feel like this is what I would do if this was mine, because at the end, it's a reflection professionally of who you are and what you're doing and bringing to the table. And you want to be able to bring something, if you ever plan on going to another job, or want to have a really great outcome, and be able to bring that and show that to the world, or founders, consumers, and other things like that. You want it to succeed. You want to treat it like your baby too. And I think that that's really amazing and important. And it kind of leads into the next question of, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in your leadership throughout your career? What, is it? I know detachment, but what are some lessons you wanted to share with others that are in your position that you feel like would have helped if you already kind of knew about them before you even started?
Um, okay. It is a tough question, giving some advice to other people. But when it comes to leadership, you one thing that I find it's very relevant is accountability. And on the other side, macro environment. And I'll start with the macro environment. When it comes to macro environment, is respect that not everything is in your hands. You cannot control everything. You can foresee, for example, that the market is still on a bear market, and that it will probably change. Do you know when? No, you can read from all the economists' points of view, and you will still not know exactly. No, this date at this hour, the market will go up. Nobody can do that. And we don't know what is going to happen. We don't know if there will be an environmental accident or a political, a geopolitical, whatever it is. So the macro environment is something that we need to respect and be cautious about and never try to control. Just not only not try to control, but mainly if you manage other people, not try to point that as a responsibility of people. If someone in your team, if even if you have KPIs of you need to sign, I don't know, X clients or partners this month, if that doesn't happen because, and I saw this where I worked before during April or May of last year when the market completely went down, nobody was able to bring as much, and a lot of the managers were upset. You cannot do that. You cannot be upset by things that are not under anyone's control. Mainly if these people are your team and they work for you because they're dealing with the same struggle. And on the other hand, accountability is very important. It's not just a matter of having self-confidence or, it's not even a detachment of, oh, it's just a job, I will find another one. This is not the type of detachment that you're looking for in an employee or as an employer. Um, but to be able to hold yourself accountable for your mistakes or for any part that took in your team's mistakes or even the successes. Accountability is a major driven force, and we come from a world that was very traditional, very well labeled. Relationships were like this and that. Basically all the future was already written to you according to the country and the religion that you were born with. Um, and that gave people a lot of the satisfaction of never being held accountable. And working for a manager or for a boss, you're not accountable. Why would you be? But you are. Doesn't matter if you are the community manager of Discord or if you're the CEO, we all hold accountability for the good and for the bad. So that's my major um, advice that I have to give here.
Yeah, I think accountability is really important, owning up to what you're doing in your position, and especially if you're a leader in the space and leading a team. I think that that is really important, and just to know that you really need to be accountable, and you're not always responsible for everything that happens, but you're still accountable, especially while talking right now. The biggest thing in our community in Web3 is the bear market. And it is very hard to determine if things will sell out or the best way to go about things, or what is the price that we should put these at to make sure that they're going to sell out. It may be less than what we thought 6 months ago when we kind of thought about the project, because these other things have happened and there's more scarcity in the market, with people feeling comfortable with even believing in projects. And oh my God, this person just had this, that, or this stolen, and that may affect this project. So it's interesting, the hurdles that we have to go through in the community, and you're not always responsible, but taking accountability for the parts that you are is definitely really important. How or like I want to talk a little bit more about Eureka for a second. There's a lot of talk about AI in the space, AI art. How do you, as Eureka, view AI art, or people coming to you with AI art projects and things like that? How do you work with AI artists, and how do you, if you do, like, how does that translate into IP and ownership or anything like that? I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
I'm very happy that you asked that question. It's something we've been talking for months and months already, and we discuss a lot of this. So last week, US Patent and Copyright Office um, denied, they gave a copyright registration to an artist that made a comic book. But within this comic book, all the images were AI generated. So the comic book got the copyright license, but the images didn't. And it's very simple. We were laughing because it took the US office over 6 months to say something that is written by law in the copyright standards and the copyright policies, which is it has to be human made. Using prompts to make art and then minting them as NFTs, you're really infringing copyright at the moment. Not that you're infringing copyright, there's just no possibility to copyright it because it's not yours. Journey and Dali, and I love it, of course, but I'm a writer by basis. So I feel like I'm just a writer, and the AI is just helping me visualize what I'm writing. I'm not a visual artist, so why would I sell it as a visual art if I'm writing? It's very important to deal with that. So at the moment at Eureka, we accept artists that are doing AI art as long as it also has a lot of human made processes. And all that type of artwork needs to undergo a very big validation period. Because, and when I say period, it's not that it's going to be a long time, it's just that it's a lot of effort because we need to understand from the generated image if anything is a copyright infringement and how much work was human made. So, how much work did the artist actually put on top of the AI image, and if that is sufficient to give a copyright license. Because maybe you just did some psychedelic background and then everything else that you put in front is yours. That's different. We'll still, of course, look at the background and how, and if the background is really just generated or if it's copied. Um, but the amount of human work that you put into a creation is really what will allow you a copyright. So I know that it's very nice to use these AI generative tools. And for advertising, I think they're excellent, even though they do take a lot of money from creators. But to be an AI artist is not going to be an easy path.
How have you navigated the global pandemic with Eureka? How has it impacted Eureka in any way? Any lessons to be learned from the experience of this global issue?
And when you mean a global pandemic, are you talking about COVID? Because I already think a lot of things are a pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about COVID, yeah.
Um, Look, there is no real positive answer. COVID was terrible. It still is, um, and it was terrible because it's definitely something that is an issue worldwide. But when it comes to work, we didn't see a lot of changes being affected. On the contrary, actually, Web3 grew exponentially due, with the pandemic. It's not that it's with the pandemic, but a lot of people are stuck at home, so it for sure helped. So a lot of new projects and a lot more prospect partners, prospect clients are now online. A lot of people learned how to behave and how to understand and cope with the technology. So the pandemic really helped in that sense. And Another improvement, and maybe or probably the reason why I actually work for Eureka, because Eureka is in Canada, the pandemic really helped with remote work. So the acceptance of workers that are anywhere in the world. I've been working there for almost a year, and soon I will go to Canada to meet my team. But so far, except for those that came to Europe, and so I took an airplane just to meet with them, to see them. Except for that, I never really met in person any of my colleagues. So I think the pandemic gave this opportunity, which in a way is also a big opportunity for underdevelopment countries and good professionals. You find good professionals everywhere, even in the smallest village in the country that you were never aware existed. So the pandemic did give this benefit of helping good professionals have great places and great companies to work at and people to work with.
I think it was in that sense a blessing to so many people, like you're saying, that are working all over the world and may not have the opportunities with their talents in their own communities or with local businesses, and being able to show the world that wow, there's talent everywhere, and now we can utilize talent and not think, a lot of it was, oh, if you work from home, you're not working. No, I'm happier being able to be around my dogs, my wife, being able to cook lunch, have a warm meal because I have food allergies. So everything would likely be cold if they didn't have something that I could cook with outside of a microwave, which I don't use. Um, and being able to just have that more freedom, and wearing pajama pants and a dress shirt, like isn't so bad. And it's having that comfort, and especially like not having to pay for travel expenses going to and from work. Gas is so horrendously expensive. A lot of people that may not even be able to purchase or utilize a car, or may not be in places that they can have those. I think that that's brilliant. And I think that in a lot of ways, even though COVID was very hard for many people, it's a really good experience for remote work, and especially in our industry, to show that we can really have this really well-rounded team. And that leads into my next question of what role has diversity and equality and inclusion played in your leadership and practices and gaining new people on your team, and how do you like prioritize those values? Because I know in web3, like it is, DEI is very sought after. You want people from all kinds of backgrounds to be working on your team, from men and women and everybody in between that classifies as different sexualities and genders, and comes from different places. So I feel like it's a more well-rounded company with a variety of values that can be, picked up on and understood, and really creates a more equitable environment. And what role does that play in your company that you work with?
So for me personally, I have never been too much into looking into labels. I think diversity is something that we should have naturally embraced. So when I look at teammates, or even if we're in a hiring process, my first lookout is for humans, people that actually look and feel human enough. And after this humanity, it's very important for people to understand that they're humans before they are whatever it is, too manly, too feminine, too whatever. First, you have to be human. And that is my first lookout. And I think that because we see that we are in a world that is open enough, it's not that it's fully open, but it's open enough for people to come come out with their own differences. And when it comes to race, of course, you can't even come out because it's already out there. So the fact that people are seeking voice and raising voice for these differences, and even with special needs, it's very important for us to embrace it. And I actually have a background with working for social inclusion for people with special needs, so it's not related to gender or race differences, but for autism or people with physical differences. it was always very important to embrace them and to embrace their differences. It means we're not targeting to we need to have as many LGBTQ people, as many women, as many this race and that race. It's not about the numbers, and to bring those differences to your company instead of suppressing them. So I'm not hiring a woman to put her in a male's role. Now you have to act like a businessman. Look at this businessman, act like him. No. And the same works for any other thing, any other special needs, any other inequality, which is equality by itself. You just have to embrace it. But first of all, look if they're human and look if they are a good fit to your company, not just if they're different enough to put the number. That's not how things work.
It's so true. We wanna work with actual humans and people and, empathy and consciousness and kindness. That's who you wanna work around and have that ethos of the company, no matter if they are a woman or male or, intersex or a wheelchair user, amputee, autism. There's so many differences, and literally without these differences, there would be no evolution. There would be no need to better products. There would be no need to be greater and pivot onto marketing even to other classes of people that are historically not marketed to different communities or tokenized in a variety of ways. And giving equal opportunities, creating equity is so important because there are millions of people that feel underserved, underseen, and underheard. And being able to just utilize people for the talents that they bring, no matter who or who they are, or how they identify. Like you're trying to fit a role with a perfect soul and a human in person, and all those things are just small like facts about somebody. It doesn't truly make up who they are. So I think that that was a great answer, and I love that you have experience in that. And adaptive individuals, which I have a really, I was in a nonprofit for a very long time that I founded, working with those with more adaptive needs, because I saw like nobody was utilizing them for marketing. Nobody was accepting into other fitness events. Like everything was very separated instead of adapting things, and making sure that people are included. And it's about being inclusive and creating adaptive environments that help people thrive and show that it's not bad to be different. It's actually amazing. And in this Web3, the more different you are, I feel the more, unlike in Web 2, where everybody, like, I'd be scared to put that I was gay or I had a wife, and now everybody that has autism or ADHD or neurodivergent, or, mental health, and all of these things are seen as strengths. Oh, wow, you can help us connect to communities that we want to connect to because you've been through this and you understand those things. Like you're much more well-rounded than the average person that hasn't been through shit. And I think that that's really important. And harnessing our differences has been, I think, that the greatest power and the greatest voices that people have in Web3. So that is amazing. And I'll end with these last few questions, more specifically about Eureka. I know that you talked a bit about the process for copyright. Can you tell us, a bit more about who your client base is? Is it creators that can brands work with you? Is it NFT projects as a whole, like with different generated art, and you work with that specific artist? Who are like your main targets when you're reaching out and trying to create partnerships and working with the marketing team to create these connections?
So we actually have four different verticals, and I will try to explain briefly, concisely, but also to put as much understanding as possible into all these verticals. So with our B2C vertical, that's the Eureka.com website, which is also the platform where creators can come and they can validate their NFTs and they can choose up to protection. One of them is a simple claim of this is my authorship of creation, which is a batch timestamp. Then we have creator rights registration, where the creator can not only batch time this claim of I am the author, but also add and register on the blockchain work process documents. So any document that proves this is actually mine, which is a very important legal claim. And the third and most valuable level is validation, where we really monitor the market to make sure that there was no copyright infringement. The artist will undergo KYC, of course. In this case, this KYC does not stay in the blockchain, so there's no problem with that. You can remain your own persona, and you can have your anonymity. But we do make sure that authorship, ownership, and originality are there. And also, and we did find in another case where with the generative collection, where one of the traits was, I think it was a hat, or it actually was something here on the neck, was being sold in this stock image websites. So they were not Web3, they were not related to NFTs, but they were being sold all over the world in stock images platforms. And we actually helped the artist to take those down. But there was a copyright infringement there. The artist didn't decide to go any legal way. Uh, he was okay with just taking it down. So this is our B2C. Then when it comes to B2B, we look at clients such as brands, and we had an example with a cigar brand, La Flor Dominicana. Last year they did a collection of NFTs with us. They were validated, and these NFTs were mainly to give utility. So you would have a certain number of cigars per month, discounts on other types of cigars and products. And this is a way that a traditional brand can come into the space and really utilize it, not just because it's NFT art, but because of the utility that you can put. And the copyright registration was, well, the validation that we provide was also a very important part. Those auctions for that brand went, I believe, over $500,000. So it was in August of last year, and we work with some other traditional brands to do this type of projects. And then, still on the B2B, when it comes to partners, we are always communicating and trying to find um, the right partners that can support this process of decentralization with ethical standards. So we work close with the Blockchain Intelligence Group. They are a great company and a great team that basically does this financial proof. So they check and track from where the wallet came and what was the problems that came, for example, with the rug pull, the main wallet, where did it come from, which sex did it use to take money out, because a lot of them end up on Binance or Coinbase or any centralized exchange, and then you can actually track where the money was coming from. So they do this beautiful work, and they use this decentralized software for it. We also partnered with Kleros, which is a decentralized court, and Proof of Humanity. Proof of Humanity is to prove bots and AIs against actual humans. And Kleros is a court that works without jurisdiction, so it's decentralized. And if you have a problem either with a rug pull, and this rug pull can also be an NFT copyright infringement, you can go and claim this. That this was stolen from you, and together with a team of jurors, so the Claros Court will allow this dispute to happen without jurisdiction, which is also a project that I think is crucial when people don't want to go into these legal fees and court systems, which are still bureaucratic, traditional, and a little bit offsetting. And then on another vertical, so two more to go. On the other vertical, we have Eureka Music. And Eureka Music is a project that was born maybe a month and a half ago. And it's a whole department that we have to protect the copyright and to protect the intellectual property of musicians. And we partnered with Cobalt to help musicians gain back their royalties. So this is not NFT Web3 based only. We're actually helping songwriters as well, and musicians in the traditional space that cannot or are not even aware that they can collect royalties all over the world. And sometimes we think royalties should be automatic, right? Even if I'm signed with a music label. No, it's actually not right. It's a whole bureaucratic process, and you have to pay sometimes music labels in other countries just to get your royalties. It makes no sense. So we created Eureka Music to support musicians in both physical world and decentralized world. And the final vertical is our integrations. So we have a business to government and a business to business type of integrations. We are just now about to publish our widget, and our widget is something that can be integrated in marketplaces, so NFT marketplaces, so that creators will be able to batch timestamp their creations. And this will help marketplaces differentiate themselves and already be protected against the regulations that at some point will have to come, and to this therefore make the creators allow the creators to have a claim of authorship to their work, and so the collectors can also feel safer when purchasing all these new collections that come with a lot of hype, and then they're all fake NFTs. With this claim, it actually will help. So this our widget is one of our biggest integrations, and then we have a copyright software. So we're actually working together with several governments. I cannot disclose any at the moment, but we're working with a lot of governments, mainly in undeveloped countries, to change the copyright system process and to use blockchain to make copyrights registrations. Doesn't matter if it's NFT or not, but the registration will actually, the license will actually be an NFT, which is very cool. And so this is one of my main projects and what I'm most passionate about working at Eureka to change the system.
And you kind of already shared the last question I was going to ask about, like different plans and releases that you have coming up, which are outstanding. I think that this widget and integrations with marketplaces is so desperately needed, and I've always wondered how, just in general, there may not be, or how there isn't some, Google can use a reverse image search, but being able to read an image and say, "Oh, wait, this is already on here." Like this image or this creation, trailer or movie, like it's already on here. This may be a violation, or can you prove that you're the owner because somebody's already uploaded this? And What is it? Not counteract it. Um, but be able to request a review and of a submission saying that this is actually my art. I came to upload it. But somebody else already has like a screenshot of it, like just like you said, from Twitter, that they had already put up, and who is the real owner, and being able to have this ownership ability is brilliant. Or like being able to see, okay, this is the same banner that somebody else already uploaded. Are you the owner of this, or who is? Because there's so many, like if you go on to OpenSea, there's so many duplicates of various projects that you don't know what's real or what's not, because they can't be verified unless you sell 100 ETH. And even still, I'm part of a rug pull where they're still verified, and it's been almost a year and they're still verified because they sold out 100 ETH worth of stuff, but they rug pulled the entire community. And it was hard, but nobody takes care of those things, and then people lose belief in projects, and it definitely stopped me from buying as many NFTs as I was. So having something that is able to prove ownership in an easier way will aid in the confidence from creators and collectors that they're selling and buying true assets that are going to be valued, for what they're putting out there as, and they're being protected, because there's nobody really outside of Eureka that I know that is truly going to these extreme, not extreme, but like desperately needed lengths to protect creators. They are, without creators, there would be no collectors. Like there's just like no in between. And to be a collector, you need to be confident that you're actually buying proper materials for the amount that you're putting out there, because you're that representative for Web3 and NFTs out there in the world, and keeping that belief in the industry and in this vertical that we're working in is so desperately needed as we're looking to grow and become better. So you're really helping the community become better. And I really appreciate all the time that you've spent with me today, and the Wi-Fi issues. And I'm really excited to be able to bring this information to people, because it's really a high talking point about what's going on in the community and where to go to feel safe. And my last kind of question is, how does somebody get involved with Eureka? What is that first step? Okay, I'm an artist. What do I do? Where do I go on the website? What is the first step of copywriting and protecting myself as an artist with my assets?
So, as an individual creator, you can go to the platform ureeqa.com, and you can check all the types of protection layers that we have and choose the one that suits you the best. And we always have a chat box there, so if you have any questions and you need help, you can always get support. If you're a musician, go to ureeqamusic.com and check as well the platform, and you have there all the contact forms. And because we work with traditional musicians and also Web3, so NFT musicians, the contact form is the most important way to go through, so that we know exactly who you should be talking with. If you're a marketplace or any type of business, and or even a traditional brand, then you can find me, Maria Rebelo. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. It's weirdly the social media that I'm the most active with. So you can talk to me through there and explain your project, and we'll get started right away.
And so anybody that's just listening to the podcast and not watching, it's Maria Rebelo, Rebelo, and you spell Eureka, Ureeqa. I really appreciate your time today again. I look very much forward to speaking to you in the future and having more conversations with you, and following along with your journey and Eureka's journey of really creating a safer and equitable environment for creators and collectors alike. And I can't wait to see you on every single marketplace, and you to be like that streamline. This is how you do what you do and protect yourself, usability software and company out there. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful day. I appreciate you telling us so much about you and being raw and open. That's what it's all about here. And yeah, you've been wonderful. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Elise. It was wonderful to be here. And, if you're ever in Europe, just let me know. It's one airplane away. I would be super happy to meet you in person.
I have to get my passport.
Oh, damn.
I can't believe I do not have one yet. I know. My wife has been to Europe twice, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" But I definitely need to get on that, and I have a lot of reasons to come. I feel like I was born to be in Europe, and history. There is no real history, no proud history here that I know of, except for like amazing Indigenous and First Nation community history, which is just like insane here, so beautiful and amazing. But I want to see those structures and like castles and beautiful fields and like so many things that my grandparents saw when they went numerous times and stayed over there for years at a time. It feels like I'm meant to be there and cry with the beauty. So I will definitely hit you up when I'm over that way, and vice versa. If you ever come to the United States, I'm right outside of Asheville. And yeah, I hope that you have a beautiful day, and you've been a real light in my morning. And I can't wait to speak with you again. Thank you so much for sharing so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Have a good day and good week.